Beautiful. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Foley.
Here.
Trustee Lappin.
Here.
Clerk Palovich, here. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Excused.
Trustee Kroll.
Here.
Trustee Reinert.
Excused.
Supervisor Skibby.
Present. At this point in time, this is a budget session, but I will, given the consideration that our agenda is this sole topic, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support. We have a motion and support, Lappin and Foley. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the proposed agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Okay, this is the first opportunity for public comment. If there is any public comment by telephone, please state your name clearly for the minutes. If there's anybody by telephone that has public comment, please state your name and limit yourself to 3 minutes. I also have asked if there's any public comment through our streaming device as well. Give a little bit more time for the delay. Hearing and seeing no public comment, we'll move forward. So today's exercise is going to be a thorough discussion of revenues and our revenue streams. So what you have before you is one, a new general ledger that was produced today. So that's up to date. What you also have are two individual sheets of paper. One that has a highlighted line, which represents our township, and constitutional and city, village, township revenue sharing projections for fiscal year 2021. This was a printout this past Friday before the Department of Treasury met with state to look at budget amendments and what projections may look like. The second sheet that you have stapled to that is post-Friday acknowledgments of what is looking to be projected per the January consensus. And to that end, I have some calls out to MTA, Department of Treasury, looking for some clarification on several different factors of what factors and what variables are used to formulate distribution of revenue sharing. So that will be coming to me later this afternoon from Judy Allen of MTA. But I figured for this exercise, so that we all have a sound comprehension of what we're looking at in terms of taxable revenues and state distribution. I had Chris Lewis come in to discuss what we're going to be looking at a local level in terms of tax collection. So, Mr. Lewis?
Right as of today, Ruth hasn't entered in all our permits and such, but we're seeing right as of today, we're looking at about a $9 million increase in taxable value. So that equates to, for fire department operating, you're looking at roughly around 13,500 increase over last year. For fire equipment, you're looking at roughly a $5,850 increase over last year. And township operating, you're looking at $9,324 increase over last year. And that's simply because our millage rate, operating millage is so low, and like I told Nathan, compared compared to the city of Alpena, which levies approximately 16 mills. If we had had the same increase of $9 million as it had the city millage, we would be looking at an increase of approximately 144,000 for the year. So even though we went up 9 million, we're not going to see a lot of an increase. So total fire millage without admin fees, you're looking roughly around $539,087. Equipment without the admin fee, $233,604. And operating without admin fee, $372,329.
Chris, could you repeat that first number for me again, the fire millage?
Pardon?
Could you repeat what that fire millage number was going to be?
The fire was 539,087.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then the fire department equipment millage was 233,604,
Correct.
and then the township operating was 327,
372,
372.
329.
That's a general fund.
That's correct.
And those three exclude the admin, as you had mentioned, correct?
Without admin fee.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have, just to this point, are there any questions for Chris in regards to how we get to that point? Or, because I want us to have just a sound comprehension. Like I said, Chris has got our local tax base kind of under wraps, and he and I have been discussing the complexities therein from the state revenue sharing aspects. But we also have a constitutional revenue sharing, and then we also have the city, village, township revenue sharing. So that's the kind of the breakout on those two individual sheets that you have is constitutional, if we're looking at the newest post-Friday fiscal year 2021. Constitutional is the first column of looking at $820,600 or $364 with city, village, township revenue sharing of $5,339, which I'm still awaiting a call back from Department of Treasury to understand the complexities of such a dramatic downturn from pre-Friday projection of $32,835. Some things that we need to be cognizant of as we have this discussion with the state that has been brought to my attention is that the state is going to be handed down the 2020 census at our 6-month process of this upcoming fiscal. So that will either have, will have an impact no matter what. Hopefully we have either stagnation as population or an increase, but if we have a decrease, we will have some amendments moving forward. So to that end, I think we've always been pretty sound as a board to err on the side of being as frugal as possible in anticipation that there may be a considerable drop. Is there anything else that you'd like to?
Whether they know it or not, constitutional is basically based on population.
Yeah.
So that census is, we really have to have that accurate, because if it's a large decrease or whatever, there goes our revenue also.
Yeah, because in terms of the constitutional revenue sharing, and this is per the Michigan Department of Treasury, in accordance with state constitution, the state constitution of 1963, Article 9, Section 10, as amended, constitutional revenue sharing payments are based on 15% of the 4% portion of Michigan's 6% sales tax collections. Distributions are made to all Michigan cities, villages, and townships on a population basis on the last business day of the even-numbered months, October, December, February, April, June, August. The revenue sharing population is defined by the Glenn Steele State Revenue Sharing Act of 1971. 1971 PA 140 as amended, Michigan Compiled Law 141.903 subsection 1. For purposes of distributing revenue, population is based on the most recent census, adjusted by 50% for any institutional population. So in my conversations with Judy Allen, the government relations individual from Michigan Township Association, the state doesn't really follow their own format sometimes. So trying to get that answer may be pointless to some extent, but I wanted everybody here to have a more thorough aspect of really what constitutes the state revenue sharing and how we may be impacted, not only coming into this fiscal with the considerations of the pandemic, of which in those correspondence and discussions with Ms. Allen, amazingly, at the federal to state level, there wasn't the amount of downturn in sales tax revenue accrual, primarily for the sole reason that Amazon customers have to pay sales tax. So they didn't see the downturn that we were all kind of anticipating with the pandemic. But that being said, at some point, there's going to be a tipping point. So I'd rather err on the side of safety and caution coming into this newest fiscal than business as usual. Yes, Trustee Foley.
I just have a question, Chris. We have in the budget on the sheet in front of me, 377,000, and we're projecting 372. Does that 377 include admin fees?
Well, and the 377 therein, in the formation of a budget, that was the best guess of last year. So it's not a terrible number to guess on, but now we actually have one that's $5,000 lighter.
It does,
So, but yeah, go ahead.
no, it doesn't include, that 372 does not include admin fee. So you would look at roughly around $11,450 just on that portion of it.
Okay.
Laura also collects for other taxing jurisdictions, so we get a 1% admin fee for collecting their taxes as well.
Just
So
curious.
you're talking roughly 384,000
Okay.
with the admin fee.
Oh, well, that was gonna be my question, is this 377 then includes that admin, which is actually ends up being what you just said, about $5,000 or $6,000 light
Right,
than what the
right.
actual number would be. Okay, thank you.
Also, you have to keep in mind, this 9 million so far, we anticipate probably roughly a $10 million increase in taxable value. But you have poverty exemptions and disabled veterans exemptions. Basically reduce that, and historically it's been almost $1 million in taxable value that those two reduce. So that's why I said 9 million for, to work with. It's gonna be around that area.
With those exceptions.
Correct.
Okay.
Because we typically lose during the year with veterans and poverty around $1 million in taxable value.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Chris? Yeah, it's been an eye-opening experience trying to figure out the complexities of how they calculate distributions. But the more I find out, I'll keep you guys posted. But really, the point of today is we want to have a thorough understanding of what we're anticipating in terms of revenues, and then we can lay out how we're gonna. Michelle and I have been discussing of a sound format of going through the budget as a whole. And at the our next budget meeting, there will be a projected budget that will be brought forward. I just wanted to have this initial conversation and look at the revenues so that we knew how to forecast expenditures moving forward. So for this exercise, as the numbers that have been forecasted on the general ledger, if you wanted to make notes, our first GL of 101,000,402, that would be forecasted coming into at 372. And then if you continue down the list to 576, which is the state revenue sharing sales tax, that 682, we will be coming into the proposed budget with a combination of $825,700. So that will be that new number coming into the proposed budget.
What will it be?
Wait, is that the fire department?
No, that is constitutional and city, village, township revenue sharing.
Basing it upon the 2.1?
That is.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Based on the,
Total. Fiscal, yep,
okay.
yeah. So on that second of the two individual sheets that you have before you, the one that isn't highlighted, on our line, it would be the third column from the right. That's what, in total, that's constitutional and city, village, township. So we'd be forecasting that at 825,700. And then also, as Chris stated, if you continue to page 10 of 16 on the general ledger,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just got, so the $682,607.36, that we're proposing to change to $825,703?
that will be for, not an amendment in this fiscal. That will be what will be on the projected budget moving into fiscal '21.
Okay. all right.
Yeah, this won't have any amendments. I will be bringing forward amendments prior to kind of the year-end closeout, because obviously, if you look at just that GL for this exercise, if you look at the same sheet without the highlighted and look at 2020 actuals, then we know that we already have an amendment. We should be looking at a combined total of $808,739. So that would be an amendment to kick that up, even in this fiscal.
Gotcha.
So there will be amendments that will be presented. I just wanted, this is just so that we kind of have a good grasp. But on page 10 of 16, this is when we get into other revenue line items that kind of Chris has already discussed in terms of the fire department. So at the top of the page is the fire equipment. This would be the equipment operating millage. So this year we had it at 223,000. Our proposed budget that will be coming forward at our next session will be 233,600. So a little bit of an uptick there. And then if you go down to truly to Department 336, Fire Department, the Fire Department operating millage being 205,336,401,000 will go from 514 to 539,100. So those are our primary. I mean, there are other revenue streams, but small in comparison. I mean, obviously, Chris kind of defined what that 1% admin, as we are passed through for county taxes, we can retain, library. There's numerous other venues there. But are there any other questions about our primary revenue streams? Because if not, today is going to be fairly short and concise. I wanted to discuss revenues as the primary. And then, yeah.
General as well as fire, right?
Yes, the only thing that we're not going to discuss, and I still have to sit down with Kath from F&B, is our water fund. And that's completely separate from tax-based operations. So we'll have to sit down and forecast consumption models, rate models, and come to a realistic number of what our revenue is going to be within that fund. And then, as we've previously kind of talked, it sounds like you're having some preliminary discussions of fire department budgets currently through the ad hoc. So, but if there's no other questions about revenue, I would just like to take a little bit of time and discuss how we're going to be forecasting and how we're going to be moving forward with our budget sessions.
So I assume we're gonna get at line by line by line, and maybe just say we're gonna get at that. But under general revenue, fire department, medical transfers, non-emergency, I see that we have some dollar amounts in there.
So this is not this is
This
a
is our
current,
current
this
budget.
year,
Right, so
Yeah.
then when we start looking forward, that's gonna end up being closer to zero.
correct.
Right.
Yeah, and obviously, as being a member of the ad hoc, we're also, looking at, we know that the collection of those non-emergency monies may take nearly a quarter to slowly dissipate till they get to that zero number.
Right.
But we will anticipate some, very similar to what we actually did once we stopped the provisional monies, through the water fund, is that it took billing cycles for it to slowly, continuously decrease until it was nullified.
Got it.
So we
Still
will
get
have,
some provisional.
yeah, yeah. So, so we will see still a figure going into the proposed budget of an anticipated collections of that last quarter, really.
Right.
Of which, I mean, it could be throughout the entire fiscal year, because there's some collections that take up to a year. So, or 4 years. So, with that being said, the discussion, so last year we kind of, and we're gonna do a very similar format. We're gonna use our large television. Although instead of going exactly line by line, we're gonna look at each department as maybe its own consent agenda, if you will. And if there's a GL within a department that needs to be pulled out to discuss further, then we're gonna do that, wherever we need to.
So any one of us can say, I want to pull out.
I would like further explanation of,
Fire
or, you know what,
prevention or
we're
whatever.
gonna take our time and go through it, then we do. Otherwise, for time purposes, I think that we can effectively and efficiently reduce the amount of meetings that we have to have before we look at an adoption process. And that's been improving annually
Right.
since we started.
Good.
So, is there any comments or questions about that as terms of a way forward through departments, or?
So are we gonna go through the revenue today and predict them, or?
Well, no, because unfortunately, a lot of the other smaller revenue streams would have to come through the treasurer's office.
Oh,
Because we don't know what an anticipated, you know, we could make best guesses, but that's the treasurer's department.
okay.
And I would rather have her make her best guess than us stepping into a department that we don't work in, so. Like I said, today's gonna be pretty concise. So, if there are things that we wanna note as we go through, or before I distribute a proposed budget, by all means, let's take the time now because I will be bringing forward amendments before the end, and we may actually have, through this budget process, several amendments at our regular scheduled meetings to amend either under anticipation of revenue stream or mitigate over expenditures by GL. So if there's anything, if we need to go through this, and if there's any questions as to the budget as it stands currently, or what we know we're gonna have issues with a projected budget, let's start having these conversations so I know how to focus moving forward. Steve or Cash, in terms of,
Is there any one department that we wanted to start with, or what? Or
and,
you just want a general?
yeah, I mean, if you want, if there's anything that jumps off the page for you,
Well, has every department given you their proposed budget for
yes,
next
I
year?
have.
So you're going to give us those?
Yeah, I'm gonna put together the proposed that I got from every department head. Obviously, I'll be looking for you guys from the fire department, and then I'm also gonna be extrapolating, information from Kath for the water fund. So, that's gonna be forthcoming. But as it stands right now, through that process, if there's anything that's glaring that we need to discuss so that we can have all of our ducks in a row when we get to that point, that would also help me as I go through that proposed budget.
Yeah, I suppose if we're just looking strictly at revenue right now,
we're gonna have a better picture in regards to the fire department probably next week.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why I was trying to, that's kind of what I was trying to look at, is trying to look at a reasonable revenue stream at the fire department, so that we have at least a place to start. And I think what we can probably do is utilize what we just learned from Chris, and then try to fill in, you know, I guess we'll look at the, expenditures, you know, as an ad hoc committee.
Yeah,
But maybe there's nothing, you know, other than that non-emergent stuff, on that line item. Everything else seems like it would be understood.
yeah, I mean, everything outside of that, obviously, we know that the 336 department, being public safety in Fund 205, has things that may not make sense to some, you know, we have to have a pass-through for the liaison officer, et cetera, et cetera. To that end, I will make a comment to that. Both Eric Smith and I sat down last week with our new superintendent to see if Alpena Public Schools would be willing to rejoin a partnership of a third. They weren't off-put. I'm also called for a supervisors meeting to see if the ancillary townships in our county would be forthcoming with some funding. So we all have students, not just in the Charter Township of Alpena. So I'm looking for potential greater participation for that position. In the meeting with our new superintendent, it was made, I was made aware also that within their school district, we actually have both Presqu'île and Krakow townships within the school district. So I'm going to be putting together a letter asking if this would be something that they would like to participate in. So that will be coming out. I'll probably get that out because I do believe that the majority of the townships in the county share are fiscal. So if we can get some commitment out of our community partners, that would lessen the burden of our anticipated expenditure for that coming into this cycle of just shy of $40,000. I do believe it was $39,373 or something to that note. And I've been working with Under Sheriff Smith in regards to that, so I'll keep you guys posted there. But yeah, in terms of the ad hoc committee, those are the numbers now that you can take back as
that's good.
realistic revenue stream numbers. I'm trying to think. Other than that, that is the focus. So once everybody gets the proposed budget that I will have for us before our next meeting, I'll probably actually give it to you guys for next Monday, since we're going to be meeting on a regular meeting schedule. I'll just hand it since you'll be here, hopefully, or I can email it. But the proposed budget will be, you'll all have it in your hands by Monday. And I do have, Chris had submitted his proposed budget. Michelle sent me a beautiful spreadsheet of her proposed budget. Laura got me her proposed budget as well. So like I said, besides fire department that you're currently working on, I'll be also sitting down with F&B looking at CIP and what anticipated expense and revenue streams through the water fund. We will be moving, yes, Michelle?
Building department. We don't have a department head, and we've never even had a discussion whether we're going to replace as a department head, how to subcontract it out, and I think we need to do that for budgeting purposes.
Yes. So to that end, Michelle and I have actually talked about that. My anticipation is that we format the building department as if we have a full-time staff. I'm going to be sitting down with our interim building official, Don Gilmet, because we do have a contract with him for 6 months, but I want to see what are available options. So that will actually probably be shortly coming to the board in a regular scheduled meeting, because we know that how much we're saving right now, but we're also in kind of a slow period of time. And is it something that number-wise that we have to look and hire somebody full-time? And that will be a discussion that will definitely be coming to the board sooner rather than later. And actually, I'll probably have, if he's available, I'll probably try to see if Don can join us when we know we're gonna be discussing that department, and what that cost and, department will look like. Because we know we have some fixed costs that we can anticipate with Lynn, and all of her ancillaries. But what are our options moving forward? Is it full-time building official? Is it, operating under a subcontracting aspect? So we'll definitely be having that conversation. I do have, last year's anticipated proposed, for the building department that is nearly irrelevant at this point in time. But, I think that having Don giving us some insight, but I would assume and I would anticipate that we should probably just fund that department as if we have a full-time staff member
That
running
makes
it.
sense.
So, with that being said, is there any questions as to amendments that need to be made? Is there anything that any departments I need to show extra consideration to as I put together the proposed budget? Or any further questions for Mr. Lewis? Good?
I think we're good.
Yeah, because we don't need to do any updates in any committees right now. You guys are working diligently, so thank you for that and your continued effort there. Are there any other comments by?
No, I have none.
Is there any disagreement to the proposed methodology of moving forward with? I mean, we can pull out, we're still gonna have everything on the screen. We're all gonna be walking through it,
No,
but,
you know, what we went through, at least for me, last year gave me a really good insight, sort of line by line. But it did absorb a lot of time, and I don't think it, although it helped me to better understand the budget, I think if we do it the way you're talking about, then we can take a bigger bites of this budget and leave more responsibility on the departments where they need to be, and then where we need to adjust, I guess we adjust. But, no, I like that idea.
okay. Cash, anything?
No, I agree.
Trustee Polly? So with that being said, if there's nothing else to talk about, I'll offer the opportunity for public comment again. This is the second opportunity for public comment. If there's any public comment by telephone, please state your name.
This is Russ Reiner. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Russ.
I'm sorry I got here late. It was about 1:30. My court ran over where I was staying right now. So I didn't hear much of the earlier meeting, but I apologize that I'm here.
And Trustee Reinhardt, are you still in town or are you actually on your vacation?
We're south of Atlanta, Georgia right now. So yeah, we're in the process of, we're in a vehicle. I couldn't make the video work on my iPad. So
Okay.
we'll figure that out after the meeting.
And just so that you know, Russ, I will scan in all the documents that we're looking at. I will scan in and email to you so that you have what we're looking at before us. Okay, Russ?
I appreciate it, and I'll find a way to print them here and go over what we've got so far.
Okay. Well, safe travels and enjoy your time out of the mitten.
Thank you. And do we have any after public comment, then are we done for today?
Yes, we have no business to conduct. It's just a budget session.
All right. Will you mark up anything that was changed in the printed documents, any changes that were made in the first half hour here?
I will actually scan in all my notes, and so you will have exactly the numbers that were discussed. So, Yes, well, it was page 1 and then also page 10, because the public safety revenue is found on page 10 of the general ledger.
But basically, we're gonna go over the revenue again at our next budget session, because Laura wasn't here
Correct.
to go over and give us numbers for the rest.
Yeah. Nope.
So we only went over the revenue sharing and the tax dollars.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Reinhardt. Is there any other public comment by telephone? Okay. Hearing none, and then also seeing none by stream, I will entertain, is there any further discussion to be had by the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table to adjourn. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 1:38. Thank you very much for your participation, Russ. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, that was great.
Give us a discussion.
That'll give us
No
a
worries.
great start. And I wish